For our first speaker, we have Danielle Rutigliano. Danielle, Danielle is a sophomore who is majoring in economics and philosophy. She considers herself a political junkie, a tennis enthusiast, and has a deep interest in aviation, which happens to be the topic of her talk. So, without further ado, let's hear it for our first speaker, Danielle Rutigliano.
Hello, guys. My name is Danielle Rutigliano, and thank you, BCTalks, for this forum. For any of you who don't know me, I'm a pilot and aviation enthusiast. And for those of you who do know me, you knew that already because 90% of my Instagrams are either from a plane, with a plane, or out the window of a plane. So I just got my private pilot's license on July 31st, 2015, and so this whole aviation thing is still really new for me. So after a year of training, I learned a lot of stuff. So I learned, obviously, about airplane systems, the physics of flight, and everything like that, but the learning curve is steep in aviation, so that's not all you learn about. You learn a lot about yourself and your personal capabilities. So through my training, here are 6 things that I kind of put together to share with you guys in a pretty, I would say, shameless attempt to recruit more young people to the field. So here goes 6 things I learned through aviation. First thing I learned was obviously how to fly. So I would consider it pretty cool that on Sundays I can go home for Sunday brunch, which is only an hour and 5 minutes. I could fly my sister and me home, and then we can come back the same day about 4 hours later for an hour and 5-minute flight with the right tailwind. And then I can meet a couple of cool people in the interim, too, because aviation is obviously full of great people. The second thing, and this is where I guess the talk gets a little bit more intense. So the second thing I learned was in order to learn something new, you have to admit what you don't know. So the first time I went flying, or the first time I even went to a flight school, I was looking at different flight schools, seeing where I wanted to take my lessons. So there was one flight school where the general manager said, "Do you want to take a ride in our mobile simulator?" I was like, hell yeah, I want to take a ride in the simulator. That seems so cool. But I guess in saying, of course I want to, I forgot that I knew absolutely nothing about flying. I kid you not, I did not know any of the gauges inside the simulator. I didn't know what anything in there was. I was like, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot anyway, putting my pride before anything else. And let's just say that, thank God, it was a simulator. So we went full throttle, revved up, took off. That I knew how to do, just pull the yoke back. I didn't really think much more than that. Turns out there is more than that, but it worked, okay? It worked the first time. So full throttle, took off, and we decided that we were going to do a landing. Let's just say that, thank God, that landing was in a simulator and not in real life. Otherwise, it actually would have been catastrophic. We saw through the window in the simulator, we just saw the asphalt of the runway. We didn't really see anything else. And I learned that that's not how a landing is supposed to go. So in order to really learn something new, you have to admit what you don't know. If you admit it to yourself and that's how you learn, awesome. If you admit it to the person teaching you, that is how you learn. Because in admitting what you don't know, you leave room to learn. And that's where you open up that space. So that's a super important lesson that I learned through aviation. The third lesson, and this is very aviation related. Sometimes there's going to be a crosswind that's going to knock you off course. So one day we were flying and I turned to Evan, who's my flight instructor. We had spent 40 hours at this point in a cockpit that is made for 2 people. So we were very close at this point. So I was like, Evan, are we going to fly today? There's a 10 to 12 knot crosswind. Yeah, Danielle, you're going to do some crosswind landings. We were pretty quiet that flight. It was bumpy. We took off, getting rocked left to right. It was not comfortable. It was not ideal. And it really pushed me out of my comfort zone. So then we're coming into land. I'm on the center line, which is what you want to maintain when you're landing. I'm on center line, being bumped left, have to correct for it. Bumped right, correct for it. Bumped left again, bumped left even more. By the middle of the runway, I wasn't on center line. Evan said, go around, which means you don't have time in that runway to land the plane, take off again. So flaps up, full power, you're climbing out of there and you're gonna try and do it again. That was kind of concerning for me. If I couldn't land the plane in a 10 to 12 knot crosswind, that wasn't good. And that meant that I wasn't ready to fly alone. So that was a little discouraging. Next time we go around, come back, bumped left, bumped right, bumped left again, pulled the power, landed the plane. It was a hard landing, I'll admit it. It was not my best landing, but I landed the plane. So in life, there's obviously a direct route to any goal. You want to land the plane, the center line is straight, but that doesn't mean that your path has to be straight. You'll be bumped left, there's adversity. You'll be bumped right, some things don't work out, but you will land the plane, and if it's not on the first shot, try again, because you'll get there. Fourth thing I learned in aviation is to prepare for the worst. And this is actually something I did every single time I flew. So we'd go into the practice area, we'd do our steep turns, we'd do our slow flight, we'd do our power on and off stalls, which are all maneuvers that you need for your tech ride. Turns out they're actually more important. But the most important thing we learned was an emergency procedure. So every single time you fly, I'd be looking out the window, pretend not to look at Evan, pull the throttle back to idle, pull the power out. You lost your engine, Danielle, what do you do? And this is where that preparation came in. So I had to prepare for the worst. What do you do, Danielle? ABCs. First, pitch for your best airspeed. B, find the best place to land. That beach looks really nice. C, go through the checklist. So now you start going through your flow. Fuel selector, make sure it's on. Make sure your magnetos are both on. Throttle open, mixture full rich. Master alternator on, fuel pump on. Did anything turn on? No, we still don't have our engine. Unfortunate, right, Danielle? Yeah, this sucks. I hate this. So what do we do now? Now we're going to call up whoever we're talking to. Are we talking to Tower? Are we talking to New York Approach? If we're talking to New York Approach, we're going to tell them, we are going down on that beach. We have 2 souls on board, and we just wanted to let them know that we need an emergency landing. After that, we still don't have our engine. Oh my God, this is the worst, right, Danielle? Oh, I hate this. I really hope this doesn't happen in real life. So what do? Fuel selector off so that when we land, there's no engine fire. Pull the power, pull the mixture. Magnetos both off, master off, alternator off, fuel pump off. Once we're done talking to whoever we're talking to, we're going to turn the avionics off. Then, about 100 feet above the ground, we're going to open the door so that it doesn't get jammed shut. Then what does Evan do? Evan turns up the mixture, turns on the power, you got your engine back, let's climb out of here. So for that, in life, you're always going to have to prepare for the worst. We hope that we will never have an engine failure. We hope the plane is never going to have to go down on a beach. But at the same time, things happen, things go wrong, and you got to prepare for the worst. It's another lesson I learned through aviation. 5. This is probably my favorite one, addressed at mainly the girls in the room. So people are going to judge you. Don't be offended when it happens. Just prove them wrong. So before I ever even knew that I was going to get my license and pass my tech ride, I told my dad, you will be my first passenger. He was so proud. He's the one that introduced me to aviation, and thanks to him and my mom, I ended up getting my private pilot's license. But he was the one, so I said, Dad, whenever you want, we're going to go when I get my license. All right, Danielle, let's go to Boston, right after I passed. Beautiful day, clear skies, no wind shear, perfect day to go fly. We flew to Boston, entered the right downwind for runway 17 at Norwood, which is only 20 minutes away from here, and landed the plane, my best landing, might I add, ever. I'd been practicing for 2.5 weeks. I got that soft field landing down, and it was perfect. Taxied over to the terminal, then we disembarked on the plane, walked into the terminal, and they keep directing these questions to my dad. How was the wind shear up there? Do you need a top off? What kind of fuel do you take? My dad really dodged all these questions very well. And after the guy's looking at him, like he has 10 heads, he's like, how do you not know the answer of what kind of fuel you need? Then I conveniently chimed in, there was no wind shear. It was actually a great day to fly. We're going to need a top off of 100 low lead fuel. And yeah, it's a great day to be a pilot. So the guy judged me. The guy didn't know that I was the pilot. Why would he expect that the 18-year-old girl, instead of the 47-year-old man, was the pilot? And do I judge him for that? Absolutely not. Should he feel guilty? Absolutely not. In a field largely dominated by men, of course he thought my dad was the pilot and I wasn't. That's not to say that I should be offended. I wasn't offended at all. At the same time, though, I was proud of my accomplishment, and I told him, yeah, it's a great day to be a pilot, because it really was. It was a beautiful day to fly, and it was an awesome feeling to know that people didn't expect it of me, and yet I had that perfect landing. So this is the last thing. This is the sixth thing I learned in aviation, and this is something that I recommend to anybody. Having a hobby you love is awesome, and I never thought that I would find it. So through high school, I tried a lot of different things. I tried Rocket Club, briefly, very briefly. I tried field hockey. Yeah, I was a varsity player, but it wasn't really something I was super passionate about. I tried running, not something I was super passionate about, and I was worried that I was never gonna find that one thing that was my thing. When I started flying, I came to realize that this was my thing. There is nothing that I've been more excited to do. Every day I fall asleep thinking about flying, I dream about flying, and I wake up doing it. And there's nothing like having that feeling. So I guess this is where the talk kind of comes to a close. Here are the 7 things. 1, I learned how to fly. Secondly, I learned that in order to learn something new, you have to admit what you don't know, and don't let your pride get in the way. 3, sometimes there's going to be a crosswind that'll knock you off center line. It's up to you to correct for it. Remember that the path to a goal may be straight, but that doesn't mean that your direction needs to be. 4, prepare for the worst, because even though we don't want our engine to fail, it's really comforting to know that if it did, you'd know exactly what to do. 5, people are going to judge you. Especially in a field dominated by men, I was totally judged. I was always the only girl. That is not something that should deter you. It's not something that you should be offended by. It's something that should motivate you to prove them wrong. And 6, find something that you're passionate about. Find a hobby you love. No one can find it for you, and it's really a gift to have found it so early in my life. This is something that I'll leave you with. When I was going to take my written exam, I was in this room. It was in an airport, so it wasn't the nicest room, covered wall to wall aviation quotes. They were so cheesy, let me tell you. There was one that I really liked, though, and it kind of stuck with me, and it's still really cheesy, but I'm going to tell you guys it anyway. So it is, the sky's the limit only if you're afraid to fly. So I invite you all, if you have any questions about aviation, please feel free to contact me and ask me, but I invite you all to make the sky your home, join aviation, join something you love, and really go out and find that hobby that gets you excited about doing things every day.